Hey everybody, it's me, Frigoli here, and we're back with episode 5 of Cycle 7, welcoming 2017 in the FMG Cannapy. Today we're going to build another wall in the FMG Cannapy to help our environment stay more consistent. With the fluctuations in temperature here in Michigan, especially when it dips into the teens, we're having trouble maintaining our heat, so we're going to separate the garden from the entrance with another insulated wall. First things first, I'm going to mark off where I want the wall to be on the ceiling. It's going to have a couple corners to it, so I'll mark those too, because technically I'll be building it from the top down. The cement floor in this room seems to be extremely tough, and my hammer drill, even with the cement bit, didn't work all that well, so I will not be anchoring this wall to the floor. I will use medium-sized lag screws to anchor it to the beams in the ceiling, which will be plenty for stability. Like I mentioned in our previous episode, use a square to mark your cuts. It is especially important when building walls and other frames, so save yourself the hassle and do it right the first time with a clean, straight cut. Since there will be a few corners to this wall like I mentioned, we'll have to make several cuts for the horizontal boards. I'm going to mark each one with the length as well as the location of the ends, since I plan on cutting them all first before I hang any. For added stability, I will also attach this wall to the existing sidewall. This means I will have to move this oscillating fan, but there should be enough room on the existing 2x4 if I just move it to the end. One way to ensure you are achieving straight lines if you need one longer than your square is by using a chalk line. I actually have a laser guide, but forgot all about it and went old school with this one. This is how I lined up the walls in the Frigoli farm as well. I should note that it is much easier to use a chalk line when you have a helping hand or two, especially if you're trying to mark a line longer than you can reach. As you can see here, one way to hang Panda film is to use small wood blocks or 2x4s and screw them to your wall or ceiling on top of the sheet. This works better than screws or staples alone because it provides more surface area, reducing the chances of tearing or pulling through. Now that I've got the ceiling boards hung, it's time to find the correct positioning for the floorboards. By attaching a few washers to a piece of twine, I can staple the twine to my center point on the ceiling board and allow gravity to show my center point on the floor. I'll have to do this with each corner to ensure we have a perfectly straight wall. The washers on a string trick is just one way to do this, but I think my laser guide may have worked for this application as well. While I prefer to be as efficient as possible, sometimes a little stoner engineering is all it takes. While you might think the vertical boards will all be the same height, that is almost never the case in my experience building insulated garden walls indoors. The slightest sag in drywall, a small change in the height of the cement floor, and other factors can all create varying vertical stud lengths. Another thing to consider is stud spacing. Standard stud spacing in homes is 16 inches, but 24 inches is another common distance. Since our insulated boards measure 48 inches wide, I will be spacing the vertical studs at 24 inches apart, starting from the ends, as the corners will certainly interrupt this pattern. Be sure to, as they say, measure twice and cut once. In the case of vertical studs, it's better for them to be slightly too long than too short. While these aren't load-bearing walls, they will become quite flimsy if the studs are only standing with a couple of loose screws. Speaking of which, I'm continuing to use these 2.5-inch star bit screws. The amount of torque is pretty impressive, and I find myself going through far fewer bits than the standard Phillips bit. You'll notice this light fixture is obviously in the way of the wall, but similar to other walls already built in the FMG Cannapy, we're going to cut the insulation board to account for it. It doesn't take more than a few measurements, but you should use something, Panda film for example, to fully seal the wall and remove any light leaks if that is a potential issue. I left myself a little over 4 feet here on the end for a couple of reasons. One of which is this seems like a prime spot for my 2x4x5 foot tent. Reservoirs would probably fit here too, but we'll probably put the nutrient reses inside of this wall. One of the best ways I've found to hang these insulation boards is to use nails with the plastic caps on them. They are strong and secure enough that it would take someone running into the wall to take these boards down, and there's enough surface area that the nail won't go right through the insulation board itself. I suppose glue or other adhesives may work as well, but these nails are fairly inexpensive and seem to be the common solution. Last but not least, we still have to tape the seams with HVAC tape. This is one item that is surprisingly expensive, if you buy the right kind. And trust me, it's worth buying the right kind. As you can see here, this cheap brand of tape is very flimsy, extremely difficult to tear properly, and is so thin that you can see through parts of it. Spend a little extra and get the giant $25 roll that is about as thick as good duct tape. I hope you guys enjoyed this build out video. I think it is nearly as important to discuss and show everything that goes into running a successful garden, not just the plants themselves. Speaking of which, next episode we'll dive back into the flowers since the last few episodes have been equipment and build related. Check me out at Fergroli on Instagram, fergroli.com, and of course subscribe here if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up button, share a comment below, and until next time, good luck and grow big.